And here we are, waiting for the first of two major storms that will be impacting the United States. The watches and warnings map tonight decorated like a Christmas tree from coast to coast. And we are going to, of course, get into all of this, especially in the east where we have flood watches and high wind warnings already up and all sorts of other things to deal with. And the picture you see is from, well, one of our chat board regulars, Izzy D, who, well, this was up in Rockland County in Muncie, 6 inches of snow on the ground. Beautiful shot, isn't it? And it's all going to get washed away. But we'll hold on to it for just a little while longer tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which is brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system, and you too can join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the descriptor to this live podcast, and if you're watching it later on the video, use the coupon code I want a weather station, because we all know that deep down inside you do. And if you do get
10% off, believe it or not.
And 10% off is nice. And here we are.
Yes.
On this Monday. We had a whole day off, Joe. Whole day off.
It was, well, it was a day off. I spent much of the morning and early afternoon blowing and shoveling along with my wife and daughter. And we picked up just under 6 inches of snow. And now we're awaiting the next atrocity coming our way for tomorrow night.
Which will, of course, wash it all away. I don't want to. I don't want to kind of make fun of this next event that's coming up. It's sort of ironic for the snow lovers who are saying we just got we just got some snow on the ground, and it's all going to be gone. But this is going to be a pretty serious storm system. Aside from the fact that you're going to have heavy rain, you've got the melting snows on top of it. This is going to probably be another 2 to 3. The new normal now seems to be every storm is 2 to 3 inches of rain. We don't get the half-inch ones, the 3/4 inch ones. At least we haven't since December. We just keep getting these 2 to 3+ inch rainfalls, and hopefully it won't amount to something double that if there's some convection around. But you put that melting snow, which was a heavy wet snow, on top of it. You're probably going to be talking about some serious flooding issues that are going to develop in some places.
It seems to be that's the way it's been going lately. Is that you're right? They've all seemed to overperform. That's kind of scary when you're calling for 2 to 4 inches right off the bat with this system coming up. The last thing you want to do is see it overperform.
Right, and you can certainly make the case that this system overperformed in the areas that got all snow, because a lot of places wound up on the higher end of accumulation forecasts than the lower end. I mean, it's never, you can't really say that for every spot, but for a lot of places. I mean, even parts of Long Island yesterday got some backside snow where some places picked up a half an inch to an inch. So. It was it's the trend, and what's really remarkable to me is the fact that there's one right behind this that is going to take a similar track. I mean, almost identical track, and it's a little bit different, but it's close. I mean, two huge monster storms in a span of 5 days. That doesn't happen too often.
Well, for all of you out there who are complaining and moaning, oh, it's so boring, there's nothing to talk about weather-wise, I hope you're happy, because now there is a lot to talk about.
Right, and the pattern is so different from what it was in December. And I know the general chant is going to be, where's the pattern change? Well, you got the pattern change. You just didn't get the pattern change you thought you were going to get.
It's going to be bad. What can I tell you? This one's going to be chock filled with everything. The only saving grace, Joe, is that this is really a fast mover, and the rapid movement through our area may actually keep the amounts down. I mean, maybe we won't hit 4 inches or even 3 inches because the whole thing is moving so very rapidly. So maybe some will only end up with 2 or 2.5 inches of rain instead of
Glory,
the
hallelujah.
yeah, glory, hallelujah, indeed. Um, but it is really moving quickly. And now there looks to be, with the actual frontal passage tomorrow evening, sometime around midnight tomorrow night, there may actually be a squall line. So there may be some rumbles of thunder along with the potential wind gusts exceeding 40 miles an hour. So this has everything on it for tomorrow late into tomorrow night.
Yeah, the Bill Goodman sent me a message earlier, and he said that the wind at up at 700 millibars is over 100 knots, and his usual rule is to take 65% of that to mix down if there's an inversion, and 75% if there's not. So he's using the 65. So that certainly says gusts, particularly along the coast, will probably certainly could be above 60. It could be in the 60 even. Who knows? We could get the odd
Well,
gust to 70.
well, the Joe Rayo long-term um, rule, or what I've always used for trying to predict along the coast, especially the possibility of strong winds, boundary level winds on the NAM today at LaGuardia for tomorrow evening, tomorrow night, 45. So, and I multiply that by 1.5. So if you do that, that comes up to 67
Well,
at LaGuardia. 67
uh,
for wind gusts tomorrow. So yeah, it's all there for the potential for possible damaging winds tomorrow for a while, late tomorrow night.
so David Fuller, who just hit Super Chat, asked that very question. Yes, the winds will probably gust to 60 by you. And yeah, you're not looking forward to having no power, possibly, because then if you have no power, you have no internet. If you have no internet, you can't watch the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which is on Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. And uh, I know that our boss, uh, Mr. Ruben Fairchild, would like us to work a 7-day weeks, 365 days a year. But normally normally we do take off Fridays and Saturdays. We did not take off this past weekend. We were on Friday and Saturday, and I suspect that we will be on Friday night ahead of the second system that is coming. So for those of you who are new, we welcome you. Hit the like button because we always like to go over 100 likes, and we've been doing that lately. So Joe and I have been very, very happy campers, especially Joe, because he gets to ring the good humor bell. And make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss the show, and turn your notifications on so that you really don't miss the show. So on that note, I just got one little thing here I got to do that I forgot to do before the show started, so I'm going to do it right now.
One thing, by the way, we know about Mr. Ruben Fairchild, he is not a baseball fan because he said just do 44 in a row like Joe DiMaggio's hitting streak. Mr. Fairchild, you are incorrect. Joe DiMaggio had a 56 game hitting streak. The guy who had 44 in a row was Pete Rose, Charlie Hustle. Right. So it's wrong. You had the right idea, the wrong person. And no, Joe and Joe is not going to go 56 straight days.
No, we're not.
Even 40.
No, we're not. We're definitely not. All right, let's look at the watches and warnings map because it almost looks as if there's something in every single state. I know Nora O'Donnell tonight told me that it's in.
Joe, we're already up to 117 likes.
Thank you for getting us over 100. I know Nora O'Donnell tonight on the CBS Evening News said that there are watches and warnings in 46 states right now out of the 50. And actually, the one state that doesn't have really much of anything of all states is Alaska. You would think the state that big would have something, but right now they're in the clear. And Hawaii's got flood watches up all over the place. So there you go. But up and down the eastern seaboard, pretty much everybody is either under a high wind warning or a wind advisory. And we've got high wind warnings up along the coast, the Delmarva Peninsula, also I believe on parts of the Outer Banks as well of North Carolina, up the New Jersey coast, All of Long Island, including Brooklyn and Queens and Staten Island, by the way, does not include Manhattan and the Bronx. We have high wind warnings that extend over parts of southern and southeastern New England. Then you've got flood watches that are up and down the eastern seaboard. We have for the winter weather, Joe, blizzard warnings northeast New Mexico to well, more than a handful of counties in south central Kansas. Winter storm warnings that go all the way up into the northwestern third of Illinois and on up into Wisconsin. Looks like Chicago's under a winter weather advisory, and Milwaukee, which is, I don't know, maybe what is it, a little over an hour's drive away or a bit more. They have a winter storm warning there, and that goes up into the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Along the Gulf Coast right now, we've got a working tornado watch in southeast Texas, including Houston and Galveston, and also into southwest Louisiana, which includes Lake Charles. Wind advisories for me. I'm sorry. Wind advisories for the state of Georgia. High wind warnings for me, Joe, and for the western parts of North Carolina up the mountains. We have wind advisories. You don't see this too often either, is wind advisories all the way down the state of Florida to the Keys aren't in it, but the whole, the landmass, the peninsula is. Now, in the west, this is the next system that is coming in. That is going to be the second major storm that's going to follow this one late this week. And we have blizzard warnings in the Cascades. Mount Rainier is forecast to get 100 inches out of this. So I think they're in the blizzard warning zone and not the winter weather advisory. Winter storm warnings for a good chunk of southwest Oregon, including the coast and northern California. We've got warnings in the Sierra Nevadas. Most of Idaho is under a winter storm warning with some winter weather advisories kind of peppered around them. High wind warnings in much of central Montana, southeast Wyoming. High wind, I think those are high wind watches that are up in southeast Colorado and in northwest Texas, where we've got a blizzard warnings up for a bunch of counties there, and high winds in southwestern parts of Texas. So that is what our watches and warnings map looks like at the moment. And as we check out the satellite loop, this subtropical jet from the Pacific has been a signature for the last several storms, and here it is again. And so that's one indication that we're going to have a problem here. And then you have this well-defined rotation that is the strong upper air low that is moving over the Oklahoma panhandle, a sliver of clearer skies in the northeast coastal plain down into the mid-Atlantic, but that's not going to last for much longer. And of course, you've got all the new energy now that is coming in off the Pacific. This is a very, very intricate and busy satellite loop, and it does speak to the kind of storm that we're going to have, because all the signatures here are there for a major storm that's developing.
It's again, just what else can you say except the very act now what we're looking at for tomorrow, Joe. Apparently, even though the primary storm goes up to the Great Lakes, in the upper levels of the atmosphere, we're looking at what we call a neutral trough that very quickly during tomorrow afternoon, evening goes sharply negative. And as soon as it does that, it's going to start pulling in all of that moist tropical air from the south into places like New York City and southern New England or whatever, juicing up the atmosphere and setting the stage for, again, rain. And of course, with the gradient tightening up as it will later tomorrow and into tomorrow evening, we'll see those winds increase as well. And again, as I mentioned a few moments ago, there are some signals on some of the short-range progs, like the HRRR, for example, or the 3-kilometer NAM models, that there could even be a narrow squall line with the actual frontal passage around midnight tomorrow night. So if you see a few flashes of lightning or hear some thunder, no, you're not imagining anything. That's the system that's going to come rolling through here like a 40-ton Mack truck. And I think also that it's all going to be jammed into a 6-hour period. I think from about 7 o'clock tomorrow night to about 1 in the morning Eastern time on Wednesday morning, that's when the worst of this is going to be. And it may very well be that much, if not all of it, is over, said, and done with by daybreak on Wednesday.
All right, but
So it's all going to get squeezed in to that time frame of just 5-6 hours.
Kathy Mello, new to the chat board, and thank you for hitting the tip jar, Kathy. Most appreciated. Any idea of the next best day to travel from West Virginia to Rhode Island via I-81, 84, and 6? I'm stressing it. Okay, Thursday. I would probably, you could do it Wednesday. If well, actually, if you do it Wednesday, you'll you'll probably have a 30 to 40, a 30 to 40 mile an hour gusty wind at your tail
Right.
to take you across. Might save you a little bit of gas. But I'm assuming that you're driving this. Yeah, you are driving it, obviously. I mean, I'm sorry. My brain kind of faded there. 81 to 84 and 6. If you want to do it in terms of just not having to deal with nonsense, there probably will be some snow showers perhaps on Wednesday as you're going up 81 and getting into Pennsylvania. So maybe you don't want to deal with that. Thursday should be okay. Thursday looks like the one day in between, just like today is the one day in between the Saturday Sunday storm and this the Tuesday Wednesday storm. Thursday the whole day and the evening. And Wednesday night, Thursday night, you should even maybe the first little part of Friday, you should be okay. So we want you to travel safely, and thank you again for hitting the super chat tip jar. So here's the radar tonight, and it's already loaded. We've got heavy rains, and these are headed for me, Joe. We've got heavy rains in Alabama, and we've got thunderstorms in the mix, some flash flooding along the Gulf Coast in Mississippi, and we've got a interesting looking squall line. That is, speaking of squall lines, it looks like there's one here from the northeast corner of Louisiana, and the most intense part as you go into the southwest part of the state, and now right along the Texas coast. You're seeing the southern end of that with some special marine warnings that have shown up. We've also got a couple of we have one special marine warning as of 7:54 p.m. Eastern time. In case you're watching this on a replay, obviously it's going to be dated, but radar is very, very active. Heavy rains now pushing up into southern Illinois. Got to the west in western Kansas and into the Oklahoma Panhandle and northwestern Texas and up back into Nebraska. Of course, this is the snow that's starting, and also now into parts of southern Iowa and northwestern Illinois. We've got some snow there. So get very, very busy radar. Nothing going on of consequence up and down the eastern seaboard. I'm going to get some good solid rain out of this. This is probably going to, for here too. It's relatively quick, but I think it's going to last a little longer than 6 hours as far as heavy rains for Georgia and severe weather. Severe weather with this is going to be interesting to see just how widespread it gets because the SPCs, and I'll get to the SPC map in a second. SPC really playing it up, and you're already starting to see the precip that's coming into the Pacific Northwest with system number 2, which we'll get to in just a little bit. Impressive. Radar's pretty loaded, Joe.
It is, no question about it. And for all of you out there who, have been complaining about, it's too mild out there, it's too warm, as I have been saying, after each one of these systems moving by, the jet stream gets a little bit better positioned to usher in some colder weather. And I can assure you that by the time we get to this time next week and beyond, the airflow is going to be opening the door for cold air from Canada. Now, I'm not talking about exceedingly frigid weather here in the Northeast, but certainly a lot colder than what you have been accustomed to seeing up until recently. It also, Joe, with that colder air sweeping in, I don't know about what you think, but I think that once we get past this next system over the weekend on Saturday, things should calm down at least in the sense that we'll get into a somewhat drier airflow. And in fact, we should be seeing much less in the way of potent precipitation makers after we get through the third of these uh, meteorological hemorrhages again on Saturday. And we had the one over the weekend. We're preparing for the one tomorrow. One more coming our way for probably late Friday night and Saturday. And after that, then we quiet down. And, even Mother Nature has to take a deep breath. And I think she will be doing that after this final system on Saturday for at least a little while. And certainly she and all
Yeah,
of us can.
the Europeans got a 980-ish low off the New Jersey coast next Tuesday, and it's rain because the zero at 850, Joe, goes all the way up into southern New Hampshire. That'll be the ultimate insult, though, if we wind up with a coastal low that goes through the box, and it winds up being too warm again. And this might even be too warm for inland areas too. So it's hard to say. The GFS has got a different look to it. It's got a calmer look. Doesn't have a storm like the European does. And yeah, usually when you get when something like this happens, which does, it's not that it's rare, but it's not unheard of. But when you get a number of major storms that are back to back or back to back to back, the atmosphere's only got so much energy to spare that it can handle, and then it's going to just sort of relax, and we go into a calm stretch. And that
Right,
makes total sense.
right. And I think that's what's going to happen. But we'd have to get through that next system on Saturday or Friday night, Saturday, and then hopefully we'll be able to take a deep breath. Everybody will be able to take a deep breath when we get to next week.
Izzy D bagging the tip jar. Thank you, Izzy. Your pictures were great. Thank you. You were at the top of the show in case you missed it. Would love to see long range. Well, we'll get to it when we get to it. And Ari Mack, thank you for hitting the tip jar. What's the story about Passaic, New Jersey? Well, kind of the same with everybody else. It's not going to be much different this time around. You're getting big rain and big wind. And WPC, in fact, from Maine all the way down, Joe, all the way down the I-95 corridor, pretty much. 2 to 3 inches plus. Now, I got to be a little careful here because this has two storms in it. All right, because I'm seeing orange here on the map, which is 5 inches over Connecticut and northern New Jersey. But that's because there's the second system for Friday night and Saturday, which may play out the same way this one is, which would be
They almost look like
they
twins.
do.
Yeah.
They do look like twins. And that rain area is also going to extend down into the southeast. So any spots that might still be dry, I can't imagine there would be. The drought is over in the middle and South Atlantic states, but you see the big rains coming down the Appalachians, back into Georgia, and into Alabama and into southern Mississippi. Also, an area of heavy precip being indicated in Indiana and western Kentucky and Tennessee, northwest Tennessee and southern Illinois. Some of it from this one, some of it from the next one, and the 1.5 inch liquid plus in the Ohio Valley into the Great Lakes. Uh, a lot of that is going to wind up being snow, particularly as you get up on the northern edge of that in northern Ohio, in Indiana and Illinois. Not necessarily from the first one in northern Ohio on the front side, but the next one with the subtle differences in terms of track could bring some heavier snows to that area from the main storm center, depending on how the low moves along. In the west, 5 to 10 inches of liquid over the next 7 days. That's it. That's pretty simple. From Washington State down to Northern California, heavy precip in the Northern Rockies, areas that are going to get several inches or more of the liquid equivalent of snow. And speaking of snow, we could go to WPC's snowfall forecast. Now, normally, Joe, we use the probability of 2, but this is an opportunity for us to use the probability for at least 4. And you can see 95 to 100% probability eastern Nebraska, northeastern Kansas, which includes our friends in Kansas City. Miss Fallerite will be getting a heavy snowfall. Hope she's okay because I haven't seen her. Oh, there she is. She's on the chat board. Great. Good to see you, Ms. Fowlerite. So enjoy the snowfall and the beautiful scenery that you'll get from that. Iowa, Northwest Illinois, most of Wisconsin except the northwest corner, much of northern Michigan, across southern Canada, and there's a little thumb down there. I don't know if that quite goes over where Toronto is, but it's probably not that far from where Toronto is. We're seeing uh, potential, I guess this would be from lake effect, Joe, from after the low goes by, southwest New York, western northwest PA, and then down the Appalachians into West Virginia, where we have a probability for at least 4. So that would be on the back end. And then we have northeast New York. The ski areas in northern New England should do really well with this, I would think.
You think?
I think. Well, this is
Yes.
all probability of 4. Much of Vermont, most of New Hampshire, and most of Maine, except the immediate coast.
I'm still waiting for the. I'm running way behind, Joe. I'm still looking at your nationwide radar picture. Believe it.
What can I tell you? Now look at the west. Got the same thing, unless you're living inside that little hole there where there is no probability for 4. But all around it. By the way, this is to the east of Seattle, so there and to the east of Portland, not getting into the big snows, but you can see the heavy snow 4 plus across much of Washington State. A lot of
200.
a lot a lot of Idaho and into Nevada, and also into the western part of Colorado. Uh, High probability for at least 4, and also with the parts of southwestern Arizona, not quite all the way down to the Mexico border, but getting there. Sal Patchy, whoa, that's a tip jar hit. Thank you, Sal. This Joe's should make up a new model, the Sicilian model. It could be the model Tutti del Monde. Yes,
Model tutti de model.
Tutti di model. Yes. Thank you, Sal, for a generous hit of the tip jar. Appreciated very much. All right, time to go look at. Let's look at the GFS, shall we? Surely.
Yes, surely.
Okay, so this is. You know what's really amazing? I'm going to go back. All right, I can go back to Thursday. So I'm going to go back to Thursday at 6Z. The 6Z GFS run from last Thursday. Okay. And look what it has. So this was, virtually, well, this is Thursday. This is valid for Tuesday. So this is coming out of the 120 hour. I wish, he doesn't have it going back much further than that. But I just want to illustrate just the how the models have been just pretty much, they just sort of set their target and went with it. There's our coastal storm from Saturday and Sunday. Now here comes this one. Now here comes, actually it sort of got this one a little bit wrong. It had some lead system that ran out way ahead and waited until Sunday to bring up something to go to the lakes. But certainly for the first weather system, I could have probably gone back to a week ago and maybe even beyond that, and saw how the models were handling this, and it's just with these Great Lakes
The
systems,
models
it's just been spot
with
on.
With this system that's coming in tomorrow, the models were remarkably consistent for many, many days.
Yes.
And now it seems like they're going to try to be consistent again for this next system coming our way for the weekend.
Yep. I did see, what did I just see up here? Oh, Michael Ethier. I hope I got that right. Thank you for hitting the tip jar. And he says, Joe, manage a hardware store in northern Rhode Island. Unfortunately for us locals, sump pumps will be gone. Yeah, well, that's true. And I guess down near the coast, that's another thing we should mention too. I didn't check to see what time high tides are, But if they correspond, if they, there's high tides before that front goes by, there's going to be some coastal flooding tomorrow.
And new moon, the astronomically highest tides for this cycle. New moon is on Wednesday, on Thursday, excuse me, Wednesday or Thursday. I think. Yeah, I'm not sure now.
I thought it was Thursday. It's Thursday.
I think it was Thursday, or maybe it was Thursday Universal Time or Greenwich Time, which corresponds to late in the day. I'll look it up. Don't worry about it.
If it is Thursday, you figure the peak tides are going to be sometime later on Friday or Friday night, just in time for the next one. So and I yeah, I mean this is like a double whammy as far as the coast is concerned. The next one comes into the highest tides, which is going to be which is going to be an even bigger problem.
It is Thursday.
Okay.
It's Thursday, and it comes at 11:57 Greenwich time. That corresponds to 6:57 in the morning. So 6:57 in the morning on Thursday is when we have new moon.
All right, so here's the low track. And also, the other player here is this very strong high that's in eastern Canada that sets up the very tight pressure gradient. I mean, you can see on the map there's 1,000 isobars from Boston to where the front is. In fact, I'm going to just draw this in. So this is at 7 o'clock tomorrow. This is at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. So the front's probably somewhere like this, whereas there's probably some kind of warm front that's stretching to the east. And then, in fact, you know what? It'll probably be better if I go on the tight view. So let's go to the eastern U.S. tight view. And there you have it. And we should also mention you can see what's going on in the south and in the southeast. There's going to be some big thunderstorms and severe weather, which I'm going to get to in a second. But there's your low coming out of Oklahoma into southern Illinois, and then it just sort of, you know, like a coil, just kind of goes up to the northwest and then to the northeast into southern Michigan. Chicago gets into that dark blue snow on the GFS for a short time. So does Milwaukee. Milwaukee probably gets into it a bit longer. And then this is at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Measurable precip from central Long Island west. The GFS has a little bit of front end snow in northern PA and into southern New York. I doubt that's going to last very long. And then you see how I mean the isobars are just so incredibly tight, and the heavy rain band. This is at 1 a.m. It's kind of hard to pick the front out because the front might be a little bit. If you look at the isobars, they got like sort of a double dip in there, so maybe the front is, maybe there's like a second line, like I don't know, it wouldn't be a dew point, like a trough of some kind that's almost right behind where the front is. Because if you look at the isobars, it looks like there's something back right in here, right there. So maybe that's the squall line forms ahead of that. The front might be like that, and then there's like a second thing that comes in behind it. I mean, technically, that's all it is. It's just it's pointing that out. And then gradient still looks fairly tight on Wednesday, maybe a little bit less, but it's still fairly tight. And here's your calm day for Thursday with not much going on. So that's your travel day, Kathy, if you're still watching. And now here comes the next one. And I'm going to widen out again. Well, no, before I do that, why don't I just leave it because I can show it. Here's the next one. Now this is now 7 a.m. Friday with a low in southwest Arkansas. I mean, it's the same thing. There's a little bit more. This one's just a little, maybe a little bit further east, but not much. And this one actually brings heavy snow to Chicago and into northwestern Indiana. And of course, here in the Northeast, there's some front end stuff in upstate New York. The isobars get very tight again. There's another cold front that extends down to the south. Probably severe weather again across parts of the south and southeast. And then out it goes. And here it is, Joe. Behind this second system, this is where we actually get into some quality cold air, if you want to call it that, for Saturday during the daytime and Sunday and into early next week.
Yes, no question about that. Now, I said that things would quiet down, but I noticed, Joe, that there's a new swath of some snow activity already making its way into the middle part of the country. By the time we get to what is that, the 15th?
Well, that would be Sunday. This is Sunday night.
Well, Martin Luther King Jr. Day
Right.
on the 15th, and one has to wonder where that's going to go.
Yeah, but guess what? Guess what? First off, the coldest air is actually is Sunday morning, Joe. We have less than a 516 thickness. Okay, and by Sunday afternoon, by early Monday morning, it's at 528, and you've got a southerly isobar. Okay, I mean, there's southerly isobars here on the GFS on Monday. It kind of has it looks like a cold front with like a polar boundary or an Arctic boundary, and the GFS has got this sort of flattish look to things that brings this front through on Monday, and of course it has rain over Long Island, rain over southern New Jersey, some snow to the north, but it's light stuff, and then out it goes, and then we get another shot of cold air. And this one is probably the coldest of the cold air, 504 thickness by the time we get to Thursday of next week. But that's where the atmosphere calms down because there's no other storms. I would like to show the European though, because the European's got a different view, as it often does. So the European says from earlier today. So this is your let me roll it back so you can see the first storm so we can have some continuity. So here's your first storm. Okay? That's gone. Now we go to the second storm, which is Friday, later Friday night into Saturday. Same thing all over again. Cold air comes in. The European swings this low like the GFS further south, but then because the northern trough is on the European sharpens and on the GFS it doesn't. You've got a low in Western Virginia Monday night with southerly isobars up the eastern seaboard. And suddenly there's a 985 low sitting southeast of Atlantic City. That's all rain. Okay? Your rain snow line with this, if you want to believe the European is right, the rain snow line with this is somewhere in southern New Hampshire and west of I-81. So in spite of the fact that this storm on Saturday winds up bringing all this cold air, unless the upper air changes, which there's time for this to happen, this is 7 days or more out, this could wind up being a rain event here. You'll wind up having a storm that's actually going to be in a position that would be favorable for it, but you won't have any cold air.
Yeah.
It's funny how things work.
But I just saw the latest tweet from Dr. Judah Cohen,
and he says,
and I lost it. Let me get it. I'll get it back. And he started talking about the system we were just talking about, and he says, snow lovers don't despair. I-95 snow lovers don't despair. Cosin Ussolini shows that nor'easters are most common after the AO bottoms out. That's the Arctic Oscillation.
Right.
And is on the rise, which is next week. But even more compelling and more reliable than any of this is the fact, and he points out on his Twitter introduction, that he is a snow lover. He loves snow, loves skiing, always likes to push the boundaries about where we can forecast about weather, especially snow. But even more compelling and reliable than all of this, says Dr. Cohen, I'm going to be out of town next week. So the stars are in alignment for the Euro. And in fact, he has hash mark locked in. Lock it in. So,
well, I'd like to see it lock in without southerly isobars up the East Coast. It could be a nor'easter. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be snow. It could be rain. Correct? Am I right on this?
It could.
It could. You mind, Rabbit. You mind.
Yes.
All right, now Jess Harden, you're getting all into this thing for next week, and I'll go along with the idea that this has some interesting looks to it, as far as some snow and wintry precipitation across the South, and this is the system he's talking about. This one here, seeing all that ice and snow across Arkansas, northern Mississippi, northern Alabama, and to me, here in North Georgia, uh, I really, really, I hate to say this, but I kind of want to get accumulating snow before. Well, you've got yours, so you beat me to it this year. But
Yeah.
I would like to get accumulating snow before a lot of my friends that live, a lot of my snow lover friends that live in coastal areas of Long Island and New Jersey. Although they did get the parts of Long Island did get a coating to an inch yesterday. So let's leave it for Central and South Jersey and point southward. But there you
Let me
go.
on the post-mortem about this weekend storm. Let me point out that you and I think out of all the places that we forecast for snow, I think we got somewhere between 75 and 80% on the nose. However, during Saturday night late, two things happened. Number one, we saw the snow change to sleet and ice, even up where I was.
Yes.
And in fact, Sunday morning at around 5 o'clock in the morning, my temperature got to 34 degrees. And we did change over after I got about 5 inches of snow. We went to sleet and ice up here in Putnam Valley. But the thing that was most interesting, Joe, was a narrow, localized band of moderate to heavy snow, which developed to my south, actually to my north, actually, from about Scranton, Pennsylvania, to about Poughkeepsie, to about Torrington, Massachusetts, Torrington, Connecticut, pushing slowly north. And everybody who was underneath that band was getting snow at the rate of 1 to 2 inches per hour. There were places and spots, for example, in Orange County that got buried
Oh
with
yeah.
like 10, 12 inches of snow.
Well,
And up in Dutchess County, more than a foot.
you
But that's all
you
that
remember
band.
late last week the various models were showing this sort of stripe of heavy snow from run to run. It kind of changed a little bit in terms of the position, but the models were showing that there was going to be some kind of S plus blob, as I was calling it, and
Right.
it picked up on that, which is pretty impressive.
Somebody asked me about this, and I said, every storm, every possible snowstorm is going to have the potential for a band of heavy snow somewhere. And the problem is that most of the models will show it and then take it away or then move it to somewhere else or whatever. It just jumps around. Now, we could take into account the possibility of a heavy snow band and up our accumulations, but why do that? Go for what you think is going to happen,
I
and maybe
agree.
you could put the disclaimer in. If there's a snow band somewhere, then all bets are off for your area, and it's only going to cover a relatively small part of your forecast region, as was the case this weekend. I mean, we as I said, most of the places we had forecasted for got what we were thinking of, but again, places that were in that snow band, boom, they got wiped out with some very, very heavy snowfall on Saturday
Mr.
night.
Ruben Fairchild, I do not remember mocking people who were predicting 12 inches. Do we mock anybody? I don't remember mocking anybody.
Didn't you guys mock who predicted 12 inches? Said there was no way that the system could produce 1 inch an hour. Well, I don't know what you were watching, Ruben. If you remember correctly, I had a spot on my map, and I was talking about most notably Ulster County, who really got clobbered with heavy snow. But I had for the higher elevations of Ulster County, I had upwards to a foot of snow. So
Yeah, I don't
uh,
remember. Yeah, we usually don't try, we usually don't mock.
you don't mock because in this weather game, and I've seen people mock other
Oh, you're
forecasters.
asking for trouble if you mock,
Yes, yes.
because the big model maker in the sky somewhere sees you doing that and hears you doing that and says, "Guess what? We're going to
You
change
know,
it just enough to make you look like an idiot."
exactly. It
Ta-
doesn't it doesn't work out to say, oh, well, did you see so and so? He only went for. it ain't going to work because one day the hammer is going to fall on you.
Yes.
Nobody is 100% in this game. Crazy things happen. So there you go.
Tyler M., I'm going to answer your question in a minute. I just want to get to this, which is SPC tonight. Enhanced area of severe weather across Louisiana to the Florida Panhandle. Of course, we showed that the thunderstorms are at the Texas coast. That has, that's moved offshore now, so they're kind of shortened up the enhanced area there. And we still have actually, do we have a working tornado watch? Yes, we actually still have. We have one tornado watch that's withering away. A new tornado watch for southeast Louisiana and parts of southern Mississippi, including New Orleans and I guess Biloxi. I shouldn't guess. I should look. Hang on. It's not smart for me to guess when it comes to severe weather. So just give me a second here. Okay, so there you go. Come on, load up. Looks to me like it's probably also including the Mississippi Gulf Coast. But I'm waiting for SPC's map to come back up on the screen, and it's not. I do want to bring up tomorrow. In the meantime, I'll come back to that. SPC has got enhanced risk for much of northern Florida, including the Panhandle, southeast Alabama, the southern half of Georgia, much of South Carolina, eastern North Carolina, the marginal risk to southern Virginia. Should they not move that northern edge of thunderstorms further north?
Well, at least general thunderstorms.
The general thunderstorms. I think they should have it further north.
I mean, if the models are showing a narrow possible squall line, and again, it's moving. The forward speed of that is really quite rapid. And I mean, there could be enough lifting and enough forcing of the atmosphere with something like that to at least get a couple of flashes of lightning or some rumbles of thunder. It would not be at all surprising if that were to happen. So,
all right, yeah, I would think so. And 10% tornado risk, by the way, for tomorrow. The other thing you should point out also is in the long range, SPC's doing it again in their long range. So day 4 and day 5, it's the same thing. East Texas, Louisiana, southern Arkansas, western Mississippi. This would be for Friday into. This is for Thursday night into Friday morning, and then on day 5, which is going to be Friday into Saturday morning, a large area of 15%, which is implied slight risk across almost all of Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and much of North Carolina, except for the western part of the state. So it's as again, it's like the twins here with these two storms. So Tyler M asks the question: why do models nearly always show higher precip amounts in the Poconos when the storm is coming from the southwest or south? Well, the answer to that is that if it's coming up from the southwest or south, your low center is going to either be to the south or southeast. You're probably the Poconos would benefit from a northeast wind, which would be uplift. What's the word I'm looking for? Joe, I'm drawing a blank here.
Well, uplift. You're going
lift
up along, especially up along the Appalachian Trail.
Right. When you get when you get a northeast wind into those mountains, it's like off the west coast. When you get a west wind into the mountains and the moisture, the wind rises, the air rises up the side of the mountains, gets all the moisture squeezed out of it. Well, in the case of the northeast wind going into the Poconos and the Appalachians, it's the same thing. It squeezes that extra moisture out. That's why elevated areas in Orange County do as well as they do, because they benefit from that, and that's what happened this Saturday.
Right. I've mentioned this more often than not, that when I was at News 12 and doing the Hudson Valley weather on what used to be a great weather channel, Channel 61, it's not a great weather channel anymore. Sorry to say, Joe, I was banging my head because when I was at News 12 and I worked with, and these are guys that you remember, Norm Fine and Pat Dolan and Steve Weinberg. I mean, we used to sit down and say, how are we going to make this as good a channel to cover weather and traffic as possible? And we made sure that you got 2 minutes of weather, 15-second promo, and go right to traffic. And then you did the same thing for going back to weather. And the other day I was watching, first of all, the traffic is recorded. It's generic. You can't even, if you were in another room, you couldn't tell what the traffic was doing because, it's generic. It's a generic recording. You have to physically be standing in front of the TV and seeing what the maps are showing, as opposed to having a live person describing, this tanker blew up on Route 64. Get away. You can't do that anymore. They don't do that anymore on Channel 61. And then after the traffic was over, I said, okay, here we go. I want to get a look at the radar. Let's see what the radar shows. And we had a promo. We had another promo. Then we had a third promo. Then we had a commercial. Then we had another commercial for, by the time they finally got around to getting back to weather, there was like 5 minutes of promos. And by that time, I was pretty well gone and went to the competitor, Channel 62, which was the weather channel, just to get a view of, the latest information, the latest. I mean, it used to be such a great channel. You used to get all this information, constantly every 2 minutes. No more. So I was very upset by that. But
thank you, by the
anyway,
way. Yeah. No, I was going to just say Mark G, thank you, and somebody else, Anthony, thank you, and Johnny Quest, thank you. Yes, my brain fades out sometimes, and I can't remember things. An orographic orographic lift.
Yes.
I don't know why I could not think of that word. My God. 40 years, Joe. 40 plus years. The brain is starting to hurt now.
Well, who was the guy? No, who was the guy when they did the Kentucky Derby or the Belmont Stakes? And he would say, "And down the stretch they come," right?
Yeah.
For you and I.
And I even forgot his name. No, I can't remember it.
Johnson? Rich Johnson? I don't know.
Dave Johnson?
Dave Johnson, I think.
I remember Tom Durkin, who called races for 30 plus years.
How about Fred Capicella?
I loved Tom Durkin, Rich Rothmansky. I loved Tom Durkin. He's to me he's one of the best race caller ever. But that's me.
You remember Fred Capicella, don't you?
Yeah, I remember.
Good afternoon, racing fans. This is Fred Capicella. The track is fast. The day is clear.
No, the track is fast and the turf is firm.
But anyway, Joe,
Davey Johnson. Thank you, Bella Lucreci. I thought it was Davey Johnson. I was never a big fan of Dave Johnson's race calls. I never liked that down the stretch they come thing, especially when there would be a race and the horse in front was basically in another zip code, and he would say, and down the stretch they come, and I'd be like, okay, you mean everybody else? Because the other horse is so far ahead.
Well, Joe, at this point in our lives, I mean, we have reached that point now where if somebody was calling the race of life for you and I,
we have reached the third plateau.
Well, we've reached the point where, Mr. Johnson would be saying, and down the stretch they come.
Yeah.
So everything in front of us right now is down the stretch.
I got news for you. We're at the 16th pole. Okay.
I don't know about you. Do you do this? My wife thinks I'm crazy when I mention this. Right now in my life, I don't know if you do this, but in my life, I think back to my grandfather. I'm matching up where I am in my life, age-wise, with my grandfather, because I clearly can remember when he was in his late 50s and 60s or whatever like that. And I'm saying, oh, right now, my grandfather, it's May 1976.
I don't do it that way. I don't quite do it that way. Although a friend of mine did something, sort of illustrated. He said, take a tape measure. All right, just take a tape measure and stretch it all the way out. And 70, the average lifespan. So what is it now? 77 or 78 for a man?
Yeah.
Unless he's married and he's lucky enough to die sooner. Because the old joke was, why do men die before women? Because they want to. But that's neither here nor there. But anyway, the whole story is you take a tape measure. Okay, so 78, let's say, is the average lifespan. So you stand at the tape measure where your age is. So mine will be 65 in a couple of weeks. So the point is that the tape measure represents your life, and from the point of where you're 65 to 78 is the part of the tape measure that you have left. And when you look at it like that, laid out mathematically on the ground, where you could you see a timeline. The tape measure becomes a timeline, and you look at it as like, really, that's all I got left. You know, I know that's the average. Maybe I'll go past 78, God willing, but that's kind of it puts it in perspective. If I just the one thing I'll say, and by the way, after doing 6 days in a row, we're sort of now at a point where we're done our show for tonight, so we're kind of unwinding when we do this sort of conversational, personal stuff. But I'm at a point in my life is I just don't, things that used to bother me just don't bother me anymore. You know, I just let it roll off my sleeves. I don't get upset over silly stuff. Stuff that used to drive me crazy. Now I look at it and it says, well, it's fixable. I'll fix it tomorrow. I'll fix it the next day. Whatever. I'm not gonna, I don't lose I don't lose it as much as I used to when I was younger.
Incidentally, I didn't know about this until I was watching CBS Sunday Morning yesterday with Jane Pauley. And in the middle of that show, they run through people who have passed away over the past week or so. And one of the people who passed away, who I was unaware of, Shecky Green.
Wow.
Remember Shecky Green?
Yeah, I remember Shecky Green. Sure.
He was a headlining comedian at nightclubs in the 1960s and 70s or whatever. Big name. He was on Laverne and Shirley playing some relative there, and he died. You want to guess? You talk about the tape measure, Joe. Do you want to know how old Shecky Green was when he passed?
Was he 90 something?
97 years old.
Oh, God bless him. God bless him. That's great.
Shecky Green claimed that Jay Leno once told him that his all-time favorite joke was one where Green recounted about Frank Sinatra. And Shecky Green had a contentious relationship with Frank Sinatra, saving his life. And then, offended by a remark that was made by Shecky Green, Sinatra sent 5 men to assault him. After some time, he heard Sinatra say, "Okay, he's had enough."
God. David Schwartz, his paternal great-grandfather lived to be 92, eating in a dairy-only restaurant twice a day and smoking 5 cigars a day. Now, I like cigars. I like smoking cigars. 5 cigars a day that's a lot. That's a lot. Boy.
Mark Twain.
Yeah, Mark Twain also.
Mark Twain used to smoke 20 cigars a day, Joe.
Oh my God, how do you afford that?
And he would play billiards until long into the night, like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Then he'd lay down for a few hours, then he'd get up again and start a new day.
That's amazing.
But Mark Twain only lived for 76 years. He came in with Halley's Comet and he went out with Halley's Comet.
Yeah, but that was pretty healthy in those days to live to 76.
Yeah.
Oh well. Anyway,
we just about covered everything.
Yeah, I think we did, and we're gonna hold off Briller Jeopardy until things calm down. So we will we'll get back we'll get back to it after these. We might be able to do it Thursday. I don't know.
That may not be until next week, though.
Yeah. Well, let's we'll just wait till everything calms down.
The networks who are watching the lack of quiz show or Briller Jeopardy on our show may be saying, well, maybe they gave up on it or whatever. No, we just don't have, we've been talking too much about weather and all the crazy things that have been happening lately in our lives. So we'll get back around to it eventually. 277 likes. And thank you to David Fuller, Miss Blue Ocean, Kathy Mello, Izzy D, Ari Mack, Bogies Bees, Sal Patchy, Michael Ethier and Liam Probitsky for hitting the tip jar tonight.
And the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast is brought to you by our affiliate, Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system, and you too can enjoy the fastest growing, and you could be part of the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned to the top of the chat board. No, it's not pinned to the top of the chat board. For some reason, I cannot pin I could pin everybody else's message, and all of a sudden now on YouTube I can't pin my own. Maybe somebody at YouTube will hear me and see if they could fix it. Anyway, get the revolutionary Tempest weather system and join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned to the link is on the descriptor to this video. Use the coupon code. I'm a mess, Joe. Use the coupon code I want a weather station, and if you do, you will get
10% off.
Okay, so Mr. Ruben Fairchild wants to know if we will be working this weekend with the weekend storm. So we will probably be on Friday night. All right, so everybody can get that heads up now. We more than likely will be on Friday night, but if this is the way this is timing out, it'll be over with. The storm will be winding down during the day Saturday, so that means we'll probably take Saturday evening off, and then we'll figure out about Sunday. Probably come back on Sunday night, okay? Because we really do need a day off. All right, we do need a day off.
We do.
I cannot. No, I look. I appreciate he wants us to be on every day, and I appreciate the fact that you can't possibly live a full life unless you watch the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast every single day of the week. All right. Unfortunately, Joe and I are human, so we kind of need a day to recharge. And then, Joe, I've been, when we didn't do the live show on Sunday, I did two video, I did a video, a 5-minute video yesterday. I put up my website stuff. I did a few other things, and that supposedly was my day off. So I've been doing this for 10 years now. My online stuff. I started in 2014. And I've been doing this for 10 years. And since I started my website, which was in 2015, I have never missed a single day with two exceptions. Okay, I missed the day that I had my emergency appendectomy, and that was in November of 21. Okay, so that was the first time that I missed a day. I posted on every holiday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, all of them. I posted when I had weddings, when my daughters got married. I posted on those days. I've posted when I had to go to funerals. I've posted when I was sick, just the flu or whatever it was. So that's pretty good. The only other day I missed, I think I missed one other day when I had my ankle surgery. I think the day I missed, the other day I missed was the day I had my ankle surgery, which was last year. So that was when they either put the screw in or took the screw out. I forget. Maybe it was the day I broke my. Maybe it was the day that I because I technically didn't break my ankle, but for all intents and purposes, I did. Maybe it was that day. See, I can't even remember anymore. But those are the only 2 days that I've missed. So you know what? I think you can cut us a break if we decide not to have a show on Saturday. Right, Joe?
Well,
we do have lives to live.
I mean, Saturday. I mean, the storm is coming for Friday night into early Saturday.
Right. So we'll do Friday night and we'll be off Saturday.
And this storm is coming our way for tomorrow night into early Wednesday. So again, they kind of are similar, a frickin' frack, if you will.
Yeah.
So if it does that, yeah, there's really no need to come back after the storm on Saturday night. We'll get a day off. So we'll see. I'm just,
Christinapedia, I did like my own live stream. I did like it. So that's usually the first thing I do. So we need 6 more likes for 300. Are there 6 more likes for us before so we could go to bed happy? Are there 6 more likes out there for us? Five more
Christopedia's asking,
likes.
Christopedia's asking if Renata hit the like button. I know she always does.
Did you hit the
Right,
like button?
dear? Did you hit the like button, dear?
Did you
I'm
hit the
not.
like button?
I can't. I don't know if she hit the like button or not.
Should I send a message to the gas bag and see if he hit the like button?
Yeah, she did. 299,
301.
300. There we go. We hit it. Now we can sign off. There you go. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you for the likes. Thank you for those of you who hit the tip jar. Thank you for all of you on the chat board who show up here on a nightly basis. It's great, and we love it. And we'll see you tomorrow night at 7:35 p.m. Bye bye.
Bye.